Sometimes it is worth it to take a chance on a game. For me, The First Tree seemed intriguing in that it appeared to be something a little different. I tend to enjoy narrative-driven, smaller titles that can be completed in a single sitting. These types of games allow me to step away from larger, more sprawling titles that can take dozens or even hundreds of hours to complete. Their respective lower price point is also more palatable, and for The First Tree at under $10, represent a comparatively good value for those looking for this type of experience. In The First Tree, the player controls a fox on a journey to find its cubs. It is quickly evident, through narration, that the story is a metaphor for a couple dealing with something deeply personal in their lives. The gameplay lacks any combat, and instead the player interacts with the world by exploring, collecting orbs, and digging up mounds in the ground that further the narration and thus the story. Visually, The First Tree is generally an attractive game. Some of the vistas and open environments are beautiful. There are a variety of areas to explore, and the time it takes to do so is determined in many ways by the player. If you decide to simply go from point A to point B, each area may only take approximately 10 to 15 minutes to complete. If you search for all collectibles, that time should double. The value in the experience is found by learning the story of the narrator by uncovering new memories. The story is compelling enough to push you forward, and the ending makes the entire experience more than worthwhile. Very few games can make you feel emotionally invested, but The First Tree is one of those games. After completing it, I sat there and contemplated my experience. If nothing else, that is extremely high praise. Unfortunately, The First Tree is not perfect. You can tell that this was a labor of love for the developer, but there are limitations here that cannot be overlooked. One of them is the fox animations. Inexplicably, the fox can jump what seems to be at least 10 feet vertically in the air, and the animation to do so seems to stop about halfway through, so as you come down from your jump it just seems off. It looks strange, like an uncanny valley of animation. Speaking of jumping, the platforming is hit or miss. There were times it took me several attempts to complete a jump, and it is hard to figure out why. There isn't a huge amount of platforming, but there's enough that it can be frustrating to perform the same jumps over and over in some instances. As far as performance goes, the game sticks to 30 frames per second for the most part. There are parts of the game where the performance is clearly impacted, but it never truly detracts from the experience since there isn't any combat. The same applies to handheld mode, where the game looks and performs adequately. Besides the story, the other standout component of The First Tree is the music. It is extremely good. If I could buy the soundtrack to this game, I would. It really pulls the story together and adds to the sense of exploration. At certain parts of the story, the music provides that extra emotional impact that words simply cannot provide. I can't say enough how much I enjoyed almost every single track in the game. A soundtrack very well done. Overall, there is some jankiness in The First Tree, and it is a short game. But it is a highly memorable one, with amazing music and an ending that will stick with you long after you've completed the game. I expect that I will return to The First Tree at least once a year to experience it all over again. For under $10, you get a game that lasts several hours and is well worth the purchase price.